Hey, good Tuesday evening, everyone. State Representative Brad Halbrook here for our Tuesday night roundtable discussion once again, and I'm joined by the Illinois Freedom Caucus Chairman Leader Chris Miller and Treasurer from Decatur, Illinois, Dan Calkins, Representative Dan Calkins, and our State Director Colin Mosley. Welcome, gentlemen, to Tuesday night's live stream, the home of truth, logic, and common sense. How's everybody doing? Let's just start with Leader Chairman Miller, and then let's just go Miller and Calkins and Mosley, and then we'll get into our presentation this evening.
Well, we're doing great here in God's country in East Central Illinois. You know, the wind's blowing, the sun's shining, there ain't a cloud in the sky, and the combining is going well, and hopefully we will wrap things up tomorrow if we can miss the rain. So we're looking forward to that.
Exactly. Dan, what's the crop report from southern Macon County?
Doing well here. I think the harvest is pretty well complete. Haven't seen a lot of open field or fields left. Had a really great day today. Big rally outside of the Planned Parenthood facility here in Decatur, and looking forward to tomorrow when we're going to be knocking doors.
Okay, excellent. And State Director Colin Mosley, what's going on with the State Freedom Caucus Network and in Illinois?
Well, we are 1 week away from electing Donald Trump back to the White House, so looking forward to that. Across the network, lots of good things happening. States that are preparing to pass legislation to make their states better on behalf of, Freedom Caucuses, school choice issues, constitutional carry issues, state freedom caucuses that are going to be supporting Donald Trump in states where it really matters. We have a Freedom Caucus in Pennsylvania. We have a Freedom Caucus in Georgia, places that are key places for President Trump. And so, we are full throttle behind the movement. And here in Illinois, we're just trying to turn out as many red voters as we can to try to gain some ground back here in the People's Republic of Illinois.
Exactly. Well, and as far as the crop report here, kind of in my neighborhood, it's about over. There's still a few fields to be harvested, but a lot of it's wound down here, and the field work, if you will, or the tillage work has begun. As we've kind of headed through some really, really warm temps. Guys, we've really went the entire month of October without rain. We had a little shower a few days ago, but it didn't amount to much. So we've went through the entire month of October here without any water. So it's dry. And but again, that shouldn't keep anybody from the polls 1 week from today. And that's really, really important. So
that's right.
With that, guys, let's get into our slides for this evening and try to get them pull up. So we're going to talk about the migrants that are being paid to leave New York. Most of them are heading to Illinois, and this Chicago Police Department exodus is continuing to happen. Let's kind of get into that first slide, talking about the migration, the paid migrants. Gentlemen, I'll just open it up here. It looks like New York is paying people to leave. What's going on?
Well, what we should be doing, actually. It's cheaper to put them on a bus wherever they want to go and get them out of these big city urban environments where there's no opportunity, where they're being housed like sardines in some of these converted facilities. I think when these folks were shipped out from the border, they really had no idea where they were going or why they were going up, unless they had a family member or something. But the Biden Harris administration were sending them to sanctuary cities. Well, they've overcrowded, they flooded these cities. The mayors, as you see in New York City, that mayor pushed back against this terrible immigration policy, and you see what happened to him, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. The feds have gone after him. The Biden administration, DOJ, weaponized DOJ, has gone after the mayor of New York City because he's pushed back against this faulty immigration policy that's just absolutely destroyed one of the greatest cities of this country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What needs to happen is they need to provide them transportation to go back to the country that they came from, because they've already broken the law. And that's one thing that I'm looking forward to when President Trump is in the White House, is to actually make America great again and make America safe again, and all of the above, mainly because these people are not here to assimilate, and the Democrats' agenda is only to replace the mass exodus with new Democrat voters, and they will unashamedly admit that that is the end game of all this stuff. But we need to end our sanctuary state status, and do things that actually make life better for the Illinois citizens, and to put Illinois citizens first rather than the illegals that are invading our country.
Yeah, exactly.
Amen. Yep.
And Director Mosley, the population deniers continue to spew their remarks that we're not losing population, but the reports are contrary to what the population deniers that run this state say.
Well, that's exactly right. And I've said this before. I know we've all said it before, but I just think that the glaring fault in their argument is that we lost a congressional seat. And so what I've been asking reporters recently on the phone is, somebody's wrong. If the governor is correct, then some state somewhere in the union has an illegitimate congressman, because if the governor is correct and we haven't lost population, then we have unconstitutionally lost a member of Congress. So, I have a hard time thinking that he wouldn't be out there fighting for us to have a correct number of delegates to Congress if we weren't actually losing population. It's all smoke and mirrors. And it's really ridiculous that they continue to pound this lie, because the facts are there. People are leaving, and it doesn't take a really intelligent person to figure that out. And on the immigration thing, to Chris's point, I think Chris is so correct. And, the Statue of Liberty, everybody brings this up on the immigration issue. The Statue of Liberty says, bring me your tired, your hungry, your humbled masses. Well, that's true, but it doesn't say, bring me your terrorists, your rapists, and your drug cartels. And I think that's the key difference here. We are talking about probably 90% of these people who are not here seeking asylum. They're not here to assimilate. They're here for a free ride, or they're here to do evil. And it's a different argument than the people that are here trying to have a better life in America. To those people who have come here correctly and want to be a part of our great United States of America, that's great. But it doesn't mean we're forced to also accept all the bad actors along with it.
Right. Exactly. Gentlemen, any closing thoughts on this slide before we move to the next one?
Well, I just think it's important that if you notice the Democrat playbook is to deny and defer and to blame somebody else. And this is a classic example of them not living in an alternate universe where they don't want to dwell in reality. But I can promise you that with a Democrat governor and a Democrat sitting president, if we didn't bleed this number of population, or worse, we wouldn't have lost a congressional seat. And that's the bottom line. Is J.B. Pritzker is lying to you once again.
Right. And we're probably using people to replace that. They're probably trying to use illegals under the cover of night to replace that. And one more quick thing I just thought of is, the governor and the Democrat leaders have made a huge attack on the governor of Texas for sending illegals up here because he's a Republican. I've not heard him complain one bit about the Democrats of New York sending people to Illinois. So is it only a problem if you're a Republican, or, it's very hypocritical?
Yeah. Well, that seems what they do best, is being hypocritical about their positions. So. All right. The other exodus that we're reading about here is what's happening in Chicago with law enforcement. Gentlemen, what's going on? We're seeing these reports here that we're losing police officers out of Chicago at a time where we need them. Surely this isn't a fault of the Safety Act.
No.
It can't be. It has to be something else. I'm not sure what it is, but I mean, I feel, we've always, as a Freedom Caucus, has always 100% backed the blue, and we still back the blue. And I can't imagine how bad the work environment is, that they've done everything to make their life miserable and their job harder, rather than trying to help them to to be the best that they can be and provide solutions to crime in the city. And not only is the net effect is policemen are leaving, but also people are leaving the city because it's not safe and they don't feel safe. And that's one of the fundamental ideals that we should have uh, in our government, is to protect the people and provide a safe environment for them to thrive.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah, and Chairman Miller, you've talked about how the Democrats and the supermajority in Springfield has destroyed public education, they've destroyed economic opportunity, and they've destroyed now public safety. And people aren't going to put up with that. They're going to go to places where all three of those things are not an issue, where they can thrive and raise their families in peace and have them well educated, and they don't have to worry about protecting their stuff because there is rule of law in other places in this nation. For some reason, Illinois just has a different version of the way they think they need to operate a state.
Yep.
Well, their solution for almost everything is to tax more, borrow more, spend more, regulate, and the latest one is regulate and mutilate. And so that's their agenda in a
Yep.
nutshell.
Sad but true.
Well, I think with the demand for police officers everywhere, when you have an opportunity to change your job location, we're seeing these highly qualified and well-trained police officers deciding they don't like the work environment, just like anyone else. If you work in a factory and you have an abusive supervisor or an unsafe work environment, people will move on. It's no different if you're a police officer. I mean, you're not handcuffed to a locale, and I'm sure with we saw it a couple of years ago when Ron DeSantis came through and was recruiting police officers to move to Florida, with tuition and schools and jobs and benefits. I mean, it was pretty embarrassing, but I'm sure it helped him.
Right.
But yeah, why would you stay? And I know there are some people that they don't want to leave their hometown, but if you're a law enforcement officer in the city of Chicago, and the people that you work for, the administration doesn't value your work or does everything they can to support the criminal element and make sure that if you step outside their rules, your life will be ruined. Why would you stay? Why? I mean, take your skills, take your family, get out of this environment, and go somewhere where you're welcome. Go somewhere where you can thrive. It's just the American system. This isn't Soviet Russia where they tell you you're going to be a cobbler and make shoes the rest of your life in one specific town.
Right.
We have freedom of movement in this country, and we see it with people voting with their feet leaving Illinois, and we see police officers voting with their feet leaving CPD.
Yep. And their overtime budget. The mayor just talked about how horrible. The articles are saying that the police overtime budget in Chicago is through the roof, and he has a $1 billion deficit to deal with right now. A chunk of that is the overtime budget being overspent. Well, because he has no officers to cover the shifts. Right. And it's not like crime. It's not like he needs fewer cops right now. Crime isn't exactly down. So it creates other problems too. It creates fiscal problems whenever you've got to figure out how to pay these people and not, violate labor laws. And I'm sorry, but also, they all want to talk about mental health, but they have no problem mandating overtime for a cop to work 80 hours in a week either. So it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think the other thing that some of these officers, the younger officers, are seeing is the pension. The promise at the end of the rainbow is terribly underfunded. And I would say that if I had less than 10 years in, knew that I had to work another 25 years in order to collect a pension, and I see the pension fund, I'm thinking, that money may not be there for me when I do retire, and I need to go somewhere where my pension is going to be secure. And that's certainly not the city of Chicago, and it probably isn't the state of Illinois.
Right. Yeah. And there's no, the other problem on the pension thing too is, and I'm not saying, we have all kinds of problems with pension system in Illinois, obviously, for a law enforcement officer, with the way they've changed now, tier 1 and tier 2, it's a whole different reality to think that you're going to have to be patrolling a beat at 64 than it was at 55. I mean, there's just, it's a different thought to think that in your 60s I'm still going to have to be. And so a lot of these people are looking at this like, why in the world do I want to work a precinct in Chicago at 60 years old, knowing that what crime will be 20 years from now? And so even like the article says, most guys are getting their 20 or 25 years in, and then they're just doing something else. And they're just totally forgetting law enforcement, and they'll cash their pension in later because they know that this is not a feasible thing anymore for them.
Right. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we all have an opportunity to do something about this, hopefully to bring some common sense back at a national level, and hopefully it spills over in Illinois. In Illinois, we've been voting since the end of September. We're in the final stretch here with a week to go. There's a lot of things at stake, and I think this slide speaks to itself here about what's going on, what is at stake. Gentlemen, I'll just kind of open it up as we wrap this thing up this evening.
Everything.
Yeah.
Well, I think that if you look at this objectively, you have to, even Democrat, Republican, Independent, you have to admit that life is worse now than it was when Donald J. Trump was president of the United States. And every quality of life issue is on a roller coaster and a spiral. The swirl is swirling, and all it needs is to be, the current administration needs to be flushed, because every quality of life issue lays directly at their feet. The inflation is out of control. Working families, both in Illinois and the rest of the U.S., are suffering because they can't stay up with energy costs, with their grocery bill, let alone the invasion of our country. Literally, these foreign countries have emptied their prisons and their mental institutions and sent them to the U.S. The issue of life, the cost of living, trade, every issue that is on here is in play right now. And if we reelect this current regime, I don't know that the Republicans survive another 4 years of this mess. And so it's important that we get out to vote, and that we encourage someone, take one of your friends with you, or better yet, take 10 of your friends with you, because we have to swamp the system, because they will attempt to cheat. And we already know that. I know Senator Rose was on a local radio station this morning with Stevie J, and of course Aaron Ammons is at it again. And there's already reports of election interference and manipulation going on in Champaign County once again. I know that's shocking news, but it's important that we make this election too big to rig.
That's right.
And with that, let's just go to our last slide as we close out the evening. This is all the ways to be in contact with the Illinois Freedom Caucus. If you'd like to contribute and be a part of the effort, you can find how to do that there at the donate button, and then our weekly or every week or so e-news that goes out on the Substack. That's a great place. Colin, I'll just leave it at you. Let's just do this as we close out. Any closing comments here about what's going on our website or the Substack? Anything we need to know?
Well, as we get closer to the election and then we get into possible veto session here, there's always funny things that happen at the end of the year and the 11th hour. And so just try to keep up to date, and we'll do our best to keep you in the know.
Well, and to that point, we do go back to Springfield in 2 weeks. A week from today is the election. So a programming note, I don't know whether we will be on Tuesday night a week from now with all the election stuff's going on. So just stay tuned to our social media and what have you. You'll see it posted if we'll be live that night. I guess we'll make that decision as we get closer. So
Maybe
anyhow,
maybe we can do a recap or a victory celebration.
be a victory. So, and we might be, I mean, it would be later that evening or something if we do something. So just stay tuned in there as things progress. All right. With that, gentlemen, I think it's time to say goodnight and vote early and vote often, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks.